And we like to say that in car commercials, everything is real except the sky, the ground, and the car.
That's right.
Pretty much everything else is real. So really nothing is real in car commercials.
Very nice. Yeah.
So why don't we take a look? Are we going to start by playing back? Let's play back the before and afters.
Before and after would be cool.
And that will help set up the grading portion of the demo. So Kieran provided us with these before and afters. You can see the wiping on of the various treatments that he did. So literally every single detail of this car was manufactured, manicured, a lot of heavy compositing that goes into this. And of course, grading. I mean, you have to basically grade up the car. You need to remove things like camera rigs. All the production equipment needs to be taken out, the reflections of the car. Very challenging work. And of course, remember, there's lots of shots, and of course, they're all moving, right? So it's not just a static frame that you're cleaning up. You're going in and you're removing a lot of things, and then adding back in things like the lighting effects to kind of integrate everything back into our scene. So the grille, the highlight, the glows on the headlamps. Sometimes you need to take out license plates. You can see a lot of the treatments here on the pack shot. Again, just loads and loads and loads of work, and again, done for many different commercials for this BMW campaign.
Cool.
So now let's take a look at grading, because that really is one of the main strong suits of Flame Premium. Is you have a real-time grading package that allows you to make creative grading decisions on the fly.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to show you what you could do with the grading component of Flame Premium, especially when you consider those mats, those elements that would be used for other compositing, and how powerful they can be for color adjustment and nuancing of an image. I have this timeline here in the grading environment, and these little purple boxes, by the way, are just indicators that this shot has a care package of mats assigned to it that I can use as I go along. But let's just take a look just at the sort of the basic process here, so you can understand how quickly and how valid this is in the Flame Premium bundle. So you could see, if we just start with a shot like this, I'm going to just start grading it here, and we'll just get a sort of an overall look going here. Maybe we'll just really drill in some detail here with our kind of just slightly more punchy blacks, if that's what we wanted in our scene. We could warm with it. This is what we call a color primary, although of course you can probably see that there's still a lot of isolation just within this. I'm going to whack the highlights out a little bit, get that kind of super yellow look that we were after in this piece. Maybe take a look at a surrounding shot. I'm kind of in the middle of the job here. You probably realize that, where we just want to try to match in existing shots, match new shots into existing shots. So let's say that that's our overall look. We might just go ahead and drop that onto this shot as well, further nuance it to get it more in the sort of the zone that we want here. Let's just give it a little more color and just a little more bite. And that could give us something to start us off on this shot. But of course, a lot of modern color correction is not just about overall kind of like one light type adjustments to the overall image. It's about the sort of surgery that you can do with keying, with shapes, with tracking. And that's really a strong suit of this software, where we could come in and do something like pick a key for the sky. Let's just start with like a highlight isolation there. And I'm going to just nuance it a little bit by going in here like this. I'm going to just sort of modify the preset highlight to really get that highlight area. This will allow me to further sort of zing that highlight to get me something I want. So I'm going to put it more up there like that. And let's just play around with that to get that sort of LA smog look in the sky up there. I'll come into to a second layer and maybe focus in on the lines on the road. That was one of the areas that was worked on. So I'll just pull a key again and show you how you might start with a mat like this, but you might want to further adjust it to nuance it in a bit. Now maybe it's a tougher key to pull based on the surrounding area perhaps, but I want to show you how you could just combo in a shape to get the look you want. So the problem here is that you can make that much more punchy, but you're going to start affecting unnaturally over here, right? So we'll combo in a shape with this. What this does is this allows you to isolate just this region, and of course with a little help from a little bit of tracking here, we'll start with just a single point tracker here and do an analysis through. This is going to allow us to isolate regions. So the combination of keying and shapes is just a really neat way to be able to just isolate that kind of stuff. Let's do one more thing here before I jump into just looking at some mats, which is to actually cut out the car itself. We said how the car is original, the ground's original, and so is the sky, except for the ground, the sky, and the car.
Right.
Yeah. And this is something that is a fun tool to be able to use, whether it's for faces or for reflective surfaces, which are really hard to accurately point track. You might be able to see how just with a little bit of manipulation of these points, how I could then just go from that kind of rough shape into a slightly clearer kind of fine shape in here like this, and then be able to put some meaningful color in there too. So we'll just grade through that shape. And actually, I'm just going to use a little...
Right, so single point tracking, that's easy to do, but the shape tracker really is the most powerful tracking tool
sort of
within the package.
The power tool for faces and slippery objects. I mean that in terms of hard to track kind of surfaces and things like that.
Right.
Now, because we're working with a flame here, we have access to the mats. This is a mat-contained shot here, so that means that I could actually jump in and start doing some sort of gymnastics with those mats. And you'll see how the first mat I want to use uses an isolation of the road. Well, that could be useful, except you can see that affects too much, right? So it spills into the car. So rather than doing that, what I'll do is I'll just start building up a couple of linked mats, or logic-opt mats is another way of saying it, where I'm going to start blending together these mats into, so by linking them together like this, you could see how I could just quickly browse through and make a mat that didn't actually exist before.
Yeah, because if you've already rotoscoped these mats once in the compositing portion of the package, you might as well just repurpose them. And that's the whole idea behind having this timeline with the embedded mats that you can then go and access as needed to isolate various portions of the image.
So now I've got a real road for that sort of desaturated road look. I can nuance it further, of course, but this is meaningful data that's good for compositing. It's also good for color grading.
Right.
So that's cool. Maybe we could take a look at this spot and another spot, and I'll show you some of the touch-up.
To consume less. A whole lot less. Hurry in to the BMW Happier New Year event and make a resolution you want to keep. This holiday season, make a resolution to hug more. Corners, that is. Hurry in to the BMW Happier New Year event and make a resolution you want to keep.
Cool. So then I wanted to show you a little bit of that touch-up work that might be done in the compositing area, and it's sort of an interesting way of working here. So we're back on our Flame desktop, and I wanted to show you how you could start from a timeline a little bit like this with that graded material that's kind of loop-the-loop. It's come back into our effects environment, or you might already be kind of working on an existing timeline here. So let me just show you how. If I expand it like this in a storyboard view, you could see how this is what we sent around. Instead of disturbing our existing timeline, which could have work already in it, what about if I just take individual shots and drop them in? Well, this is something that's just been made really clean and easy here in this 20th anniversary edition. I'm actually going to sort of distill down my desktop to just 2 reels, which makes it easy to start thinking about this as sort of drop-ins, last-minute drop-ins. Here's the timeline, represented as both a storyboard but also as a regular timeline down here.
So this is really the best of both worlds. You get the visual
really
reference of the reels, which Flame editors love to use the reels, and then you have the timeline, which most editors are more familiar with, but you can kind of blend the 2 techniques here right here on the desktop in the new 20th anniversary edition.
That's right. That's my reason to show you, actually. And also how, as we step through here, you can see I'm going through the layer 2. But if I actually go down a layer, notice how that changes the timeline. It filters the timeline down to the lower layer, and I could then move through to look at this shot right here and decide, that one needs to get swapped in as well. So this is a really visual process that Flame guys love over the years.
Absolutely,
It's just been expanded to be able to work easily on a multi-layer timeline. You can see what you're doing so much better these days.
Yeah, it's more new functionality.
Yep. So then, coming back to this shot here, actually, what I've got is a bit of a problem with some reflections, right? So this is the kind of thing that you might deal with in compositing, where you've actually got some camera equipment in there, right? And indeed, I'm not sure if this is the jib itself or just some telegraph wires or something, but it's got to go, right?
That's got to go. The wires on the hood, yeah.
Right. So then if the way that we might handle that is I'm just going to add an extra track here, do it slightly an unconventional method.
Yeah.
But you'll see why in order to sort of get us some flexibility here.
So instead of working on the actual shot, you're going to go a layer above and do a gap.
I am.
Okay.
This is a quick fix, right? It might be one of the simpler shots perhaps, but I want to show you how you could do a kind of a quick adjustment, bearing in mind that grade could change again.
Right.
So have a think about that and how we want to sort of remain flexible in that way.
Okay.
And I'm going to pull out another action node here, and I'm going to use it actually to show how we have a mask system here, much like what we just saw in the grading actually, that allows us to do sort of more difficult masks. And what I mean by that is if you're trying to track something like that, it's a slippery surface. It's not, you could hand animate it perhaps, or you could use a technique where you go and use a utility mask. And what I mean by that is I'm going to use this shape down here of features that are a little more meaningful, and then I'm going to use that to kind of get the move of the car's rotation and so on. But I'm going to then take that and use it in a slightly more a more accurate mask after having grabbed the detail.
Yeah, and you're using actually a G mask inside of the action workspace.
I am.
You're not using a media layer G mask. So this is a very sophisticated mask that also allows you to do the shape tracking in 3D space. So you can see he's just that quickly analyzed the movement. Now that movement can be applied to something else, or in this case, you can just use it as a mat.
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of keep the track data, discard that mat, and put one more in that's going to be my fine mat. So once I've got the move, I'm now going to draw the shape I really wanted on a new mask, just hanging off that parent axis. Something that makes more sense to me without having to deal with those slippery...
Yeah, it would have been very difficult to track directly on the hood. So yeah, that's a great technique.
Yep, so then just with a little bit of looking through here using my Gmask view, you could get an idea how I could nuance this a little bit more with a little animation, but this is a 5-minute job instead of like sort of thinking about like hand building shapes. Right. And you get if you've got a twist on there, It
was quite quick to get here. Now the standard flame techniques would apply now, right? So you need a little bit of blur, a little bit of regrain.
I'm actually going to output this as a matte. So I'm just going to put out a icon of that. And then, normal procedural compositing from here, right? So this is sort of meat and potatoes stuff, but you can get the idea that from here you would maybe use this matte to just blur that stuff out.
Smooth it out, right?
Yeah.
But when you smooth it, you lose all the grain, which is going to...
That's a problem, so we're going to have to deal with that.
Introduce another problem, so you can fix that.
Yeah, so I'll just use that same set of... that same matte just coming through here, looping it back to the batch effects node. And now I'm going to just look a little more closely to see my problem and do a little sampling of that grain. We don't want too heavy grain. We just want a nice subtle sort of match in. And you could really get the idea how, you can play with the matte a little bit more, but you could just see how this can solve the problem for you and get you back
So right in front of you guys,
timeline.
He was able to remove the production equipment on the hood. Here's the thing that always comes up, though. So you fixed it for this shot, but there was a reason why you wanted to do it on the gap above, because what if the grade changes? Yeah,
in this case, it's a simple fix. And what if, there's a new version, they decide they like green now, and I'm just setting the middle layer here, so in between, replacing that, so I come back up here, and you can see how quick it is to take that fix and apply it to a whole different piece of media, in this case, a color graded.
Just drop the new media underneath and the same procedural events above will cascade along. So that's a great example. I mean, again, you can imagine we were able to do that right in front of you, and there were lots of cleanup shots because that's really the challenge of these car commercials.
Many more.
Many,
this is
many
just
more.
a tiny little example.
That's
but
just
still,
one tip of the iceberg. But anyway, great example.